Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gandhi. For a country, having one aircraft carrier is pretty cool, but having two aircraft carriers is even cooler. And now imagine having a three-carrier battle group. That's the stuff of legends, right? Any country that has three or more aircraft carriers can easily be called a dominant naval force. And right now, there is only one so-called dominant naval force, and that's the United States of America. It has 11 aircraft carriers. Every other country that has aircraft carriers has one or two of them. However, do you know which country could soon have three warships? It's India. That's right. India is all set to have a third aircraft carrier very soon. And if you thought that was a great achievement, here's more. They are going to be manufactured fully in India. Now, that's a very big accomplishment. And here's what we know so far. The Indian Navy has submitted a formal proposal to the government. The proposed vessel would be the second indigenously built carrier for India, signifying a major stride in India's quest for self-reliance in defense manufacturing. Currently, India operates its first homemade carrier, the INS Vikrant, which joined the fleet last year, and a Russia-made carrier, the INS Vikramaditya. Having a third one would allow India to have a three-carrier battle group. It would be a show of strength for the Indian Navy in the Indian Ocean, especially at a time when the Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy is increasingly marking its presence in the region. And for decades, India's defense policy focused on land borders. And now, as India's global ambitions expand, it has started flexing its naval power in international waters. India is carrying out more warship patrols than ever before amid growing concerns over Chinese aggression in the high seas. Indian defense analysts believe that this new aircraft carrier is crucial for India's ambitions of becoming the dominant power in the Indian Ocean region. A strong naval presence with robust carrier capabilities will be key in achieving this goal. You see, India's defense manufacturing capabilities have developed significantly over the past few years, and that's because of this. It's because of this progress that in September 2022, India commissioned the first indigenously designed and built aircraft carrier, INS Vikrant. It marked a significant milestone in the country's commitment to self-reliance. The proposed carrier is expected to be similar to the INS Vikrant in its core design. However, it will likely incorporate improvements so as to accommodate larger aircraft on its lifts. Additionally, the design might be adapted to facilitate the operation of high-altitude, long-endurance, unmanned aerial vehicles in the future. All that's waiting is the government's decision on the proposal. And if approved, this project would represent a substantial investment in boosting India's naval power. It will help India protect its 7,500-kilometer coastline and operate hundreds of kilometers away from its shores in the high seas. This would make India a truly blue water navy. Considering the fact that over 90% of India's trade by volume is seaborne, the Indian Navy needs to assert itself in the Indian Ocean. After all, India's strategic interests depend on several countries dotting these shipping lanes, be it Straits of Malacca, Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb, or South China Sea. India recognizes the need to beef up the Indian Navy with more warships. But it's not just about strategic interests, you see. We cannot overstate the doctrinal significance of aircraft carriers to India or to any major naval force. The absence of an aircraft carrier with its range and depth of combat capabilities could potentially force a fleet commander to alter battle plans into a defensive mode. Sure, nuclear-powered submarines with their long-range ballistic missiles are important assets for the Navy, but aircraft carriers, well, they are used for power projection. Take the example of U.S. supercarrier IS Gerald R. Ford. The U.S. rushed its mega warship to the Mediterranean Sea to help Israel amid its war. It is no wonder that the former U.S. Secretary of State called an aircraft carrier 100,000 tons of diplomacy. And this is also why the Indian Navy has been advocating for 3 aircraft carriers to maintain presence on both the east and west coasts. The Indian Navy needs at least 2 operational carriers at any given time, while a third is docked for routine maintenance. And what this allows is having 2 carrier battle groups comprising of destroyers, anti-submarine vessels, submarines, while the Indian Navy's maritime capabilities plan envisions 3 aircraft carriers. The Ministry of Defense had proposed a 3-carrier force structure with 150 fighter jets a quarter century ago. So this is a long time coming. Having 3 carrier battle groups would not only boost India's capabilities, it is important given China's expansionist plans in the Indian Ocean. The faster India's carrier fleet is bolstered, the closer India gets to becoming a strong naval force that is recognized as a global power. Are the NATO and Russia preparing for a war of the century? Just have a look at what's going on. The NATO is strengthening its eastern flank, fearing that Russia might invade its member states. And to address this concern, the US-led military bloc is constructing its largest base in Europe. That's right, in Romania. With Ukraine at the north, the Black Sea to the southeast, Serbia to the southwest, Hungary to the west, Romania does not share a border with Russia, but fears of Russian aggression have reached an all-time high. The $2.7 billion project plans to expand the Romanian Air Force 57th Air Base. It is located close to the Black Sea port city of Constanta. Once finished, the new base will have a perimeter of almost 20 miles, covering around 11 square miles. It will have hangars, fuel stores, ammunition, new runways, weapon platforms, accommodation, basically everything that is needed to support the operation and the missions of NATO. It is designed to permanently host up to 10,000 NATO soldiers and their families. And for them, the base will have schools, kindergartens, shops, and a hospital. In short, it will be the size of a small city. The location is key. Romania has long been a key hub for NATO operations in the Black Sea region. Since Russia's full-scale war on Ukraine started, thousands of American troops have been sent to Romania for security and training purposes. The NATO policing operations in Romania involve a regular deployment of American combat and surveillance aircraft. So the expansion of Romania's existing base seems like the appropriate place to expand operations for the NATO. And reports say that the new base's basic infrastructure work, including access roads and the power grid, has started. New runways will be built to support different types of military aircraft. The US-led military bloc had started building its network of enhanced forward presence multinational battle groups in the Baltic region after Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine in the year 2014. But when the Ukraine war started in February 2022, the NATO reinforced the missions, creating 4 additional battle groups in Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia. The Romanian battle group is led by France, with Belgium, Luxembourg, North Macedonia, Poland, Portugal, and the United States contributing forces. Romania has established itself as an anchor of NATO's and the European Union's eastern flank. Now, Bucharest is seeking closer cooperation with its NATO allies, especially the US. And this is especially because the Black Sea has become an area of confrontation between Ukraine and Russia, as well as between West and Russia. And this is why Romania wants to strengthen its collaboration with its allies. Romania has become a crucial location for the US and NATO to improve their operational capabilities in the region. In fact, the US Air Force operates fighter aircraft and drones from two bases in Romania, Base 71 and Base 75. And these bases provide surveillance close to the country's border with Ukraine and the Black Sea. Recently, Romania also opened the European F-16 training center to train pilots from Romania, Ukraine, and other nations to fly the coveted American fighter jet. The training center features advanced simulators, classrooms, and other training facilities, making it an essential hub for NATO pilot training. According to Romanian military and political analysts, the new NATO base would be the most critical and permanent NATO military structure in the immediate vicinity of the Ukraine war. With the Ukraine war showing no signs of abating, the base will help maintain the NATO's presence in the Black Sea region. And overall, Romania's strategic location, making it a vital member for the US-led bloc in the region. But it's not just Romania. The NATO plans to boost its military partnership with Ukraine by creating a joint training center in Poland. The center's primary purpose is to help Ukraine share its experiences and insights from its conflict with Russia. And at the same time, it will provide and offer a way for Ukrainian forces to train and learn alongside their allied partners. In short, the training center seeks to promote cooperation between Ukraine and the NATO forces. Now, Russia's invasion of Ukraine was launched in part due to Russian President Vladimir Putin's concerns, remember, about the expansion of the strategic alliance. But NATO has expanded regardless, with Finland joining last year and neighbor Sweden likely to follow suit. The Kremlin calls the NATO's actions provocation. They say it does not promote security on the continent. On the contrary, they increase tensions. Now, Russia may not be wrong in saying that. Tensions along Russia's border with NATO nations have in fact risen amid massive training exercises along the border. It's not just the training. NATO's increased focus on defense, including Poland and the Baltic states, have made matters worse between Russia and the West. NATO leaders have increasingly warned that Russia will eventually attack the alliance. But Putin has dismissed them as complete nonsense. What the Russian leader has also warned the West about is a potential World War III. We told you about this yesterday. That is, if NATO and Russia go to war. Still, neither side is taking proactive steps in scaling down the tensions. Weeks ahead of the elections in India, a lot is happening by the hour, and over the next few minutes, we are taking a quick look at the biggest developments coming in at this point. Starting with India's main opposition party, the Congress is in the process of approving the party's manifesto. The CWC has authorized the party president, Mallikarjun Kharge, to give final shape to the manifesto for the 2024 general elections. Apart from the party president, former party chief Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi were also present at the key Congress Working Committee meeting in New Delhi today. After the meeting, the Congress leaders assured that the 5 promises of justice announced during the Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra would be included in the Congress manifesto. 25 guarantees would be covered under these initiatives, 5 promises each for the youth, women farmers, laborers and minorities of the country. As the opposition party huddled in the capital, southern India continued to witness public rallies and roadshows under the ruling party's campaign fervour. On the last day of his southward push, the Indian Prime Minister touched the states of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Speaking during a public rally in Tamil Nadu, the Prime Minister said that the public support that the BJP is getting in the state is being watched and discussed all over India, and that has forced Tamil Nadu's ruling DMK party to lose its sleep. Earlier in the day, the Prime Minister held a roadshow in Kerala that witnessed the participation of thousands of BJP workers and supporters. The BJP is pushing hard to open its tally in Tamil Nadu and Kerala in the coming elections. And while the Prime Minister is leading the BJP's attack for southern India's 129 seats, dissent has marred the ruling party's prospects in the state of Karnataka. Former Chief Minister and sitting MP from Bengaluru North, D.V. Sadananda is keeping his party colleagues on tenterhooks. He was expected to announce today that he will quit the ruling party. On Monday, Gowda confirmed that the opposition Congress had been in touch with him, and speculation was rife that he would contest from Mysuru on a Congress ticket. Meanwhile, a large association of his community members held a meeting in Bengaluru. The Association of Karnataka's second largest community pledged its support to the former CM and decided to support whichever party he wished to join. The BJP's Karnataka troubles do not end with Gowda. On Monday, another senior Karnataka BJP leader and former Deputy Chief Minister, K.S. Ishwarappa, skipped Prime Minister Modi's Shivamoga rally. Ishwarappa has raised a banner of revolt within the party over denial of ticket to his son to contest the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. And he is now contesting against the sitting BJP MP on the Shivamoga seat. Ishwarappa has decided to contest as an independent candidate. Let's now talk about Maharashtra, where a seat-sharing deal is yet not on the table. Both the ruling Mayuti Alliance and the opposition Mahavikas Aghadi have not reached a consensus as of now, but the ruling alliance may be buying some time to work out a key strategy. The BJP, Shiv Sena and the NCP may bring another partner in their camp. And there are talks that Maharashtra Navnirman Sena or the MNS Supremo Raj Thakre may join hands with the ruling alliance led by the Chief Minister Eknath Shinde. On Monday, in fact, earlier, Thakre met the Union Home Minister Amit Shah in an indication that the two parties were looking to join hands with the faction. The BJP leader Praveen Darekar has confirmed MNS joining the BJP-led NDA in Maharashtra, saying that the seat sharing will be done soon. Raj Thakre is the estranged cousin of Uddhav Thakre. Raj Thakre had parted ways with the undivided Shiv Sena in the year 2005 due to his differences with Uddhav Thakre. On to Bihar now, where a lot is happening on the political front. The Indian cabinet minister, who hails from the state, has resigned from his post after his party was denied seats by the National Democratic Alliance. And there are reports of Paras joining the opposition camps and a probable split in his own party. Led by the BJP, the National Democratic Alliance swept the state last time, winning 39 out of 40 seats in the 2019 Lok Sabha polls. And this time, the NDA is eyeing all seats. The seat-sharing formula is sealed. The BJP will contest 17 seats. The Janata Dal United 16, Chirag Paswan's LJP 5, and HAM and RLS 1 seat each. But will it be a 2019 rerun for the NDA? We'll have to wait and watch. Israel has taken control of the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. It claims to have killed 20 Hamas militants, including a senior leader. In fact, yesterday, in the early morning hours, Israel started pounding the hospital compound, the same compound where thousands of Palestinians have been seeking refuge, living in makeshift tents. But Israeli officials claim that the hospital was being used for more than treating and sheltering the civilians, that senior Hamas fighters were using it as their base to command the attacks. Listen to this for yourself.
The
Hamas terror organization continues to systematically operate from within hospitals and civilian infrastructures. It abuses civilians and patients as human shields. Hamas tried to re-establish its base in the hospital and use it as a shelter for terrorists on the run. We will not allow this and will attack and continue to attack any place Hamas tries to re-establish its grip.
So Israel targeted the hospital, launching precision airstrikes. Its special forces were supported by infantry and tanks. Soon a fire broke out at the entrance of the complex. Many displaced women and children in the hospital suffocated to death. People have been trapped inside the hospital buildings. The Israeli Defense Forces detained at least 80 people. But the Israeli spokesperson is putting the figure at 200. Listen to this.
During the operation, we apprehended more than 200 terrorist suspects that are now being questioned. We eliminated more than 20 terrorists inside the hospital compound.
Israel has also released aerial and ground footage claiming that weapons were fired at the IDF from inside the hospital compound. The clip shows soldiers in the hospital compound engaged in gunfights. Have a look. There is chaos and destruction in the hospital grounds. After seizing control of the strategically located hospital, the Israeli forces have told thousands living nearby to evacuate the region. They dropped leaflets and used social media to tell the civilians to leave their homes immediately and travel along Gaza's coastal road to Al-Mawasi. This is about 30 kilometers south from Gaza city. Israel calls it the humanitarian island. But how will the Gazans leave, that too, at such a short notice? There is very limited transportation. Many residents of Gaza City, particularly children and elderly, are weak after months without adequate food. How many would be able to comply with the Israeli instructions is the question. Israel raided the hospital in November as well, and now it's back again. What does it mean? That the IDF was not able to eradicate Hamas from the grounds the first time around? Is that what happened? Since February, the IDF has returned to fight in territories that it supposedly cleared of Hamas militants last year, and now comes the hospital raid, highlighting Israel's weak grip in these areas, perhaps. There were doubts whether the hospital was being used by Hamas as a covert command center, but none over the strength of Israel's control when its soldiers moved in. 3 months later, the raid is kind of an admission that this control might have slipped. Hamas is operating in parts of northern Gaza that were cleared by Israeli forces a long time ago. Will this keep happening is the question. Is Israel looking at a forever war in Gaza? What makes me ask that? First, Hamas has survived for far longer than expected. Even after sustaining heavy casualties, it seems it still has enough men and functional command systems to launch attacks on Israeli troops, given the circumstances are right. Secondly, Israel has demobilized troops to its northern border or the occupied West Bank. It is only launching targeted strikes and raids in Gaza instead of massed confrontations. This means there are only a few troops permanently on the ground in northern Gaza, giving Hamas enough time and opportunities to regroup and re-establish. Lastly, Israel still does not have any realistic plans for governing Gaza after the war. Prime Minister Netanyahu is focused on attacking Rafah. For those who might not be aware, Rafah is the southernmost town in the Gaza Strip. It houses more than 1 million displaced civilians. This has raised concerns globally, but what's the point? The fire is not fully extinguished in any part of Gaza. Hamas fighters are lurking in the territories that were supposed to be cleared by Israel. Why is Israel going further south then? Will this continue to happen on loop? Are you a working individual? How many days in a week do you work? Sounds like a silly question, you would think. Well, what if that could change? How about a 4-day work week? Does that sound like a dream? Well, it has been in the news for a while now, and now France is in the news for a new trial scheme as far as 4-day work weeks are concerned. What exactly is this about? What is the plan? What was the trigger? Let's tell you all that you need to know. Now, this is a trial scheme for divorced parents. Basically, the country is testing a 4-day working week for divorced parents who have shared custody of their children. And the idea is to have more flexible working arrangements for them. As of now, the trial will start with civil servants, but could be expanded to cover all those who are working and share custody of their children. Divorced parents will be able to have a 4-day working week when they are taking care of the children. When is the trial going to start, you ask? In September this year. And starting that month, civil servants in some ministries who are in alternating residence arrangements will be working 4 days in a week. Like I said, this will be the weeks when the children are staying with them. What is not known as of now is whether this means that the total working hours will go down. Basically, would they be making up in the weeks that the children are not with them, so that the monthly average ends up staying the same? And by the way, it is expected that Wednesday would be the day that would be preferred for the off day. And that's because that's the day when most middle schools and also primary schools don't hold classes in the afternoons. So that's when parents would prefer to be off, perhaps, so that they can be home and take care of the children. Gabriel Attal, the country's current prime minister, was the country's budget minister 2 years ago. And interestingly, that's when he had introduced this in the finance ministry. The thing is, there have been long-drawn campaigns in France aimed at encouraging shared custody. The idea basically was to bring down the number of single parents' families. But what this also meant is that the children have to be basically moving between the homes of the two parents. And as far as this trial scheme and the idea of a 4-day work week for divorced parents goes, there are also concerns regarding how this would affect or be handled by smaller businesses, for example. There is also the possibility of this being looked at as a form of discrimination. The aim overall, though, is to improve the quality of working life in France and give divorced parents an extra day off to take care of their children. What do you think about the move? Should it be given a shot in other parts of the world as well? Write to us and let us know your thoughts. Ignorance is bliss. We've listened to this phrase time and again, but is it really true? Now, researchers have found it might just be, because those who are woke are among likely to be sad. That's what this new study at least suggests. It was published in the Scandinavian Journal of Psychology, and it found that woke people are more likely to be unhappy, anxious, or even depressed. Let me tell you more about the study. But first, let's just understand what exactly wokeism is all about. In the 2010s and early 2020s, there was a rise in a particular variety of social justice. It addressed systemic inequalities across various identity groups like women, people of color, queers. You see, this kind of social justice is focused on intersectionality, also anti-racism, inclusion. Colloquially, it came to be known as wokeness, and the people who followed these social beliefs were labeled as being woke. The movement is praised for recognizing the struggles of the marginalized groups, but it's also criticized for its approach towards identity and freedom of speech. Now, coming back to the study, it was conducted in Finland. It assessed 5,000 people. The participants were asked questions related to beliefs about systemic oppression. Researchers compiled and studied the responses, and in the end, they identified 7 beliefs of woke people. Let me just read them out for you. If white people have, on average, a higher level of income than black people, it's because of racism. University reading lists should include fewer white or European authors. Microaggressions should be challenged often and actively. We don't need to talk more about the color of people's skin. A white person cannot understand how a black person feels equally well as another black person. They also disagree with these statements. Trans women who compete with women in sports are not helping women's rights. A member of a privileged group can adopt features or cultural elements of a less privileged group. How many of them do you agree or disagree with? And do these statements sound like your beliefs? If yes, then you are more likely to be woke and probably more prone to mental illnesses, as per the study. Because researchers found a high prevalence of anxiety and depression in people who believe in these statements. More broadly, they found that those who identified as left-wing were most likely to report lower mental well-being. Is that something new? Yes. But is it surprising? Because come to think of it, it appears to be true. Consider the woke people in your social circle, or if you yourself are one. Are the social media stories often filled with political rants? Do you see them frequently raising awareness around some issue? Always campaigning for one thing or another, even lecturing people on their political choices, or gatekeeping matters related to a minority group, concluding that if you do X, then you are enabling Y. You see, wokeism is a full-time job. You have to keep up all the time, and that can be quite exhausting. So I'm not surprised if wokeness brings along a plethora of mental issues. You are bound to be stressed, anxious, and maybe depressed as well if you think too much about social injustices. But what should you do? If you aren't woke, you never know when you'll get cancelled, and if you are, it could be injurious to your health. You'd have to, basically. Intermittent fasting has become widely popular over the years. It is a way of living where people eat all their meals within an 8-hour window and fast for the remaining 16 hours of the day. Experts on the subject say that early humans were able to go without food for long periods of time as they had to hunt and gather their food and could only eat once a meal. So, supporters of intermittent fasting claim that our bodies are conditioned to live this way. However, most people who follow this do so with the single aim of losing weight. But in a meeting of the American Heart Association in Chicago on Monday, some alarming findings from a study were presented. The study basically analyzed the dietary habits of 20,000 adults across the US from 2003 to 2018 and found that people who followed the 8-hour eating plan had a 91% higher risk of dying from heart disease compared to people who ate meals at regular intervals throughout the day. And it went on to say that people with existing cardiovascular disease had a 66% higher risk of dying from heart disease or a stroke if they followed intermittent fasting. People with cancer were also more likely to die of it if they followed a time-restricted diet as compared to people with cancer who ate regularly through the day. Now, what does this mean for the people who follow intermittent fasting? You might be one of them. Intermittent fasting has pretty much become an industry over the years. There are applications, in fact, that have been created specially to guide people through it with tips and information, what they can do, what they cannot do. A huge number of books have been written on the matter as well. There are also fitness coaches who specialize in hand-holding people through the process of intermittent fasting. While the study will make people question this way of life, it is also a fact that studies on nutritional plans have always been a bit open-ended. What may work for a few people may not work for everyone, and vice versa. But one thing is clear. If we are eating junk food for a meal and sipping on drinks for hydration, then we are headed towards problems irrespective of how we plan out our meals. So eating healthy and mindfully seems to be the safest. Former US President Donald Trump claims he is struggling to post a $454 million bond in a civil fraud case. Trump's lawyers have told a New York appellate court that it is impossible for him to obtain a bond of $454 million that he has been ordered to pay in a New York civil fraud case. Trump must either find the cash or post a bond to prevent the state's authorities from seizing his properties. Meanwhile, he has appealed the February 16 judgment against him of falsifying his property value to dupe lenders and insurers. In the court filing, the Republican presidential candidate's lawyers urged the court to delay enforcement of the judgment. They argued that the amount is excessive. Trump also said that securing a bond of that size was practically impossible. The lawyers have said that Trump is prepared to post a $100 million bond, arguing that the lending ban in the February 16 verdict made it impossible for him to secure a bond for the full amount. Trump's attorney said he has approached 30 underwriters to back the bond that is due by the end of this month, with $112,000 per day interest as penalty till he pays. Trump's lawyers have asked the appeals court to delay posting the bond till his appeal is disposed of. They have argued that Trump's properties far exceed the judgment in value. The $464 million judgment is not Trump's only legal penalty. In January, Donald Trump was ordered to pay $83 million after losing a defamation case a woman he was found to have sexually abused. He has already posted a bond in that case. Trump had another legal setback on Monday in one of 4 criminal cases he faces. A New York judge denied the former president's bid to block 2 key witness testimonies where he is accused of falsifying business records to hide a hush money payment. According to earlier reports, over the course of 2023, Donald Trump's political action committees have spent over $50 million in legal fees as the former president's legal troubles intensified in the face of 91 felony counts across 4 criminal cases. Has the British royal family been lying to you? Have they been feeding you fake stories and fake photos? Some of you may have already seen this photo. It was published last year, in April to be more specific. Queen Elizabeth was around. It was her 97th birthday. The royal family had gathered at the Balmoral Castle. That's when the Princess of Wales, Kate Middleton, had taken this photo, or so we were told. In the frame, you have Queen Elizabeth and her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. You can see Prince George, Princess Charlotte, Prince Louis, and other royals as well. Now, as it turns out, this photo was altered, or so is the allegation. British media outlets say there are several discrepancies in the picture, like this sleeve that suddenly goes missing. There are other visible signs of editing, like this black patch near Prince George's neck. Some photo experts suggesting what we have here is not a photo, but multiple shots stitched together. What now appears to be glaring went unnoticed for almost a year. And why do you think that is? Because not many people are used to questioning what's published by the royal family. They are used to taking everything on face value. But you see, that changed with one photo. This one photo, several inconsistencies. There is a missing sleeve, a zip that is not quite adding up. The photo has been recalled by some of the world's top picture agencies. The Princess of Wales had admitted to editing the photo. But how much was edited? With two back-to-back photo controversies, one cannot help but ask how much of what the royal family says or publishes is altered. How much is fake? How much is real? Are edits limited to photographs only, or are the narratives also touched up? Are the grim stories airbrushed? Is the line between real and fake blurred? Now, this is the X handle of the Kensington Palace. It is run by the social media team of Prince William and Princess Kate Middleton. Can you see how much content is being routinely pushed? How much of it should you be believing? The same question also applying to the PR and social media teams of the British King and Queen, and by extension, all of the British royal family. This is the latest photo on the handle. This is the Duke of Gloucester, Prince Richard. The post claims he visited a church in Norfolk and heard about their community outreach activities. Prince Richard is the cousin of late Queen Elizabeth. Was his photo altered as well? What about this one? We are being told that the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh attended a badminton championship. But how much of this photo is real? This question may sound bizarre to some of you, but one needs to ask this question. Is the royal family feeding you lies? You see, we are living in times where we are just coming to terms with the dangers of deepfake. Countries around the world are scratching their heads trying to come up with laws to rope in deepfake, the menace of deepfake. Social media platforms are changing their guidelines to try and tame the danger of deepfakes. YouTube, for example, has now asked content creators to come clean about AI-generated media. But who is checking on the British royal family? Take a look at this photo. Again, it's an old one from the Wales' last year Christmas card. Do you see what appears to be a missing finger? What about the extra legs? The British media is happy to report that touching up royal photos is an age-old practice. In fact, a man named Cecil Beaton, who would photograph the royal family in the mid-20s, when he was in fact reportedly a quote-unquote master of retouching. But here's the thing, back then retouching would mean hiding a blemish here or there or a dirty cuff. Today, there is no limit to the extent a photograph can be retouched, or should I say, even recreated. Today, it becomes a question of playing with reality. It becomes an issue of credibility. The British royal family is clearly not helping with its endless supply of altered pictures. What for? If the idea is to make the British royal family look picture perfect, then it's high time the royals realize that photos like these are nowhere close to serving that purpose. And if anything, they are a royal embarrassing disaster, pulling into account the very credibility of the royal family. Studies of the 4.5 billion-year-old asteroid Bennu sample collected in space and brought to Earth by NASA reveals never-seen-before minerals. The asteroid also contains high carbon content and water, which together could indicate the building blocks of life on Earth may be found in the rock itself. Take a look.
A rocky relic is all set to reveal the most astonishing secrets. And why not? The relic is from Bennu, once seen as a potential doomsday asteroid. Samples from this near-Earth asteroid were brought by NASA's pioneering OSIRIS-REx mission. They hold answers not just to questions on the building blocks of life, but also on strange new minerals. Bennu has a surprising reservoir of a mineral called magnesium phosphate. These bright white particles are a rare find in astromaterials. NASA's OSIRIS-REx mapped Bennu for 2 years after arriving in 2018. In 2020, it landed on a site called Nightingale and snatched a handful of space dust in its mechanical arm. After drifting from Bennu, OSIRIS-REx jettisoned its treasure in 2023. The capsule scorched through the atmosphere before landing safely in Utah's desert. Labs worldwide are now busy unlocking the asteroid's secrets. The secrets held within the rocks from the asteroid will be studied for decades to come. They will offer insights into how our solar system was formed, how materials that are a precursor to life were seeded on Earth, and what precautions need to be taken to avoid asteroid collisions with our home planet. NASA says missions like OSIRIS-REx will improve our understanding of asteroids that could threaten Earth while giving us a glimpse into what lies beyond. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. Good night.
The biggest democratic exercise on the planet ever. Decoding the multiple colors of this multi-dimensional, multi-layered spectacle. WION deciphers the images and the hues, sifts real performance